there. You called it a neoliberal solution. I agree
Yep.
with it wholeheartedly that
Mm-hmm.
we are not going to take your guns away. We're not going to restrict your guns. We're not even going to restrict your access to guns, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But, getting into kind of my second talking point, this verdict is the first of its kind.
Mm-hmm.
There have been parents in other cases that have pled out to criminal neglect charges.
Mm-hmm.
But if you dare read any comments section on the story of a school shooter, always a school shooter, never with workplace violence, there's always calls to charge the parents.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think many Americans see this as justice? As a parent, do you think this will instill a sense of hypervigilance to attempt to see any signs of antisocial behavior as a warning sign for extreme violence?
Well, there's a lot I could say about that,
Say it all.
personally
You got
too.
time, say it all. Good.
I think a lot of, I asked some of my friends in Detroit what the sense was, about this, and everybody sees it as justice in Michigan. Um, they're all for it. And I might also mention that the prosecutor, Karen McDonald, is a Democrat, which I found surprising because when I was growing up in Oakland County, the prosecutor was always Republican. I mean, they were always Republicans. So she's got to be some kind of sort of Hillary Clinton neoliberal Democrat. You know what I mean? That's almost Republican. That's the only way she'd be elected
Mhm.
that I can see. So, and she's, she decided she didn't care about the political ramifications if she lost her job over doing this. And because she's kind of, a vigilante legal person or something. And, but no, I think a lot of people saw it as justice because they couldn't see, a solution like gun control or that's not going to fly in Michigan. I mean, and I also think that some people said, if they wanted to blow it off and thought maybe they shouldn't have been sent to jail, some people said, well, they'll be safer there. And that should tell you
Wow.
how scared they should be
Wow.
in Michigan. Yes, absolutely. I
That's
do not doubt
frightening.
that. So, I mean, and then, with the media called it when they left and I think they went to Detroit City, right? And they were hiding sort of they said they were hiding out in a warehouse and there was a manhunt after them. That's not exactly what happened. I mean, what happened was they went home, checked the gun after it happened, met with the police. They weren't charged until 3 days later. Um, they took a bunch of money out of their accounts. They got credit cards and they went to a hotel and they still didn't feel safe. Um, so they kept going to hotels and still didn't feel safe. So they went to their friend's warehouse in Detroit. A lot of people have things like this. There's artist lofts or whatever right in Detroit.
Mhm.
Someone they might have known, and they hid there. But the way they presented it in the media is there's a manhunt on. As soon as Karen McDonald decided she wanted to charge them, and they weren't like at their house being sitting ducks, right? Then there was a manhunt on. I just find that really not truthful about what was actually happening, right? I think they were really trying to protect themselves while they figured out what was happening. And it's not to say that they might not deserve some responsibility, but I think that there's a lot of class issue here.
Mhm.
That people in Oakland County is one of the wealthiest counties in the country,
Mhm.
and they live in the least developed part of it, is how I would put it,
Okay.
and probably in the most rural part of it. So I could see them being sacrificed for everybody else's um, peace of mind.
Mhm.
That's sort of how I see it. I don't know if that sounds crazy, but
I mean,
uh,
it sounds heavy. It does. Again, you're talking about these people that are having money troubles, and
mhm,
from what I was reading, it looked like the dad had worked in tech off and on, but I
mhm.
guess he was having an off period, unless they say tech is DoorDash. You know,
He was driving DoorDash.
yeah. I mean,
And they had money troubles and they weren't, but they also, they went kayaking. They did all the Michigan stuff with their son. They did those things. they had just started. She had only went to the range with her son one time.
Hmm.
This was a new thing. So, and she had never shot a gun before in her life.
Why did
Um,
they decide to get the gun again?
the dad did.
And because it's a thing that they're used to in the area they're from, or
No, he was from Florida.
well, hey, yeah,
Well,
depending on
I
what
get
part of
okay,
Florida.
but I mean, he was from but he wasn't from Michigan in the sense that I don't know how to convey this in the sense that almost everybody grows in Michigan grows up with a gun in their house
Hmm.
that's unsecured usually, and I grew up around guns, um, and I knew not to go near them, right? But it's usually for a purpose, right? It's like for hunting. Um, Everybody goes up north. People leave their guns up north. They don't leave them in their houses at downstate where they actually live, or they leave them in their trailer or their camper up there, right? Um, so it's a real outdoorsy state and a lot like Wisconsin in that way.
Hmm.
And I just think that you know maybe they didn't fit in that way because they didn't know that if you have a gun, it's not about this. I don't know what to call it, but I see this other sense of over the last 20 or 30 years, guns have become this kind of thing, this kind of status symbol,
Okay.
and they're kind of detached from hunting and wilderness, or you know what I mean?
Well,
Um,
I would say in certain. Would you say that in certain communities though? Because I understand what you mean. There is a certain. If we want to put labels on it, almost feels like a petite bourgeois community of like
mhm,
small business owners in some
yeah,
sort of suburb of three-car
mhm,
garage
yep,
McMansions. You're
yep,
going to find a lot of gun owners.
hmm
Um, they're going to have multiple guns, right? Because that's the whole thing. The
more
average
than
gun
they
owner
need.
has like it's like 7 guns, and they are going to be insanely large and powerful.
Hmm.
Even when I watch, there's like YouTube videos, and this goes through all ethnicities because there's tons of YouTube videos, which kind of shocked me of
Hmm.
like black dudes in the middle of nowhere shooting these like 50 cal rounds just to shoot them.
Hmm.
And again, I come from urban California, where if you have a gun, you're doing a crime, right? You're
Hmm.
not protection for what? So I do understand, and, living in different parts of the country, I do understand there is a culture around hunting season,
Hmm.
working in the Gulf of Mexico on the coast of Louisiana, seeing young people with gun racks in their cars before they're 20, like going to high school with gun racks in their cars because it's hunting season and there's actually guns in the rack.
Hmm.
To me was a shocking vision in a post Columbine world,
Hmm.
but nothing had changed there.
Right.
Even though there was school shootings in the South, like I think
Right.
Alabama was precedes Columbine, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where
Um,
the kid called the fire alarm or whatever bomb threat and picked off the
yes. Where were they? Arkansas.
Arkansas. Sorry, I said Alabama. It's
Hmm.
Arkansas. You're right. It was
Yeah, they
Arkansas.
were in Arkansas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then there was that one in, oh God, why can't I think of the state? It's because it's a state you just drive through. Um, I'm terrible. Um, but
For me, they're all states I drive through.
oh, Kentucky, West Paducah, Kentucky was one too.
Mhm.
So
Which is, again, is kind of a place where it's common to see gun racks on cars.
mhm,
Um, so the possession of the gun for me isn't a call that or it isn't a sign that the parents are wrong, because it's
right.
just like you said, such a commonality
Hmm. Hmm.
in Michigan.
I mean, I think my brother had BB guns when he was a child. Um, I think my parents, I probably wanted to have one at one point, and they wouldn't let me because that wasn't considered feminine. Um,
Now
you
you can get
know,
a pink one.
I I grew up in the 70s. And I wanted a piranha because my neighbor had one. I had all these kind of like, I don't know, non-stereotypical things I wanted to do. And I think they were kind of horrified by it. So I don't know. But but yeah, you wanted to be able to do that, and I would go up north with my dad, and he would go hunting, and um, I would go out in the woods with them.
Hmm.
I didn't actually hunt. He didn't really want me to do that. But I was always around guns. I was always seeing him loading shells and things like that in the basement, but it was purely for sport. It wasn't for, you know, he never thought, he wouldn't have even thought to get a gun if somebody broke into the house.
Interesting. He never said it was for protection.
No.
But that's the pivot, though, too. Would you agree of the NRA
Yes.
to really talk about protection? And I love when someone's like, "This is for to protect my family." I'm like, no one wants your family. I've been around your children. That little child has a green booger hanging out of his nose as big as a fist. Nobody wants your disease-ridden children. I'm
Right.
sorry to break it to you.
I,